then they opened things up from the three-point line. All in all, and then their nets, when they were trying to make some certain runs, turned the basketball over and give opportunities that way to the Pistons. All in all, it's just a bad night. And to think like, oh, they don't have Kevin Durant, that's a shame, and he probably would have made a difference. There's still major concern on the defensive side of the floor right now with this Net team.
We're waiting to hear from Nets head coach Steve Nash. The way to reach us on Twitter is @BKNetsRadio. We'll get to some of your comments in a little bit, but we're waiting to hear from the head coach. And of course, it's not positive. But we're not going to paint a rosy picture of this one, because as Bob from Bayonne says on Twitter right now, when you get wired by the worst team in the NBA, you're not a good team. They couldn't defend. When Jared Allen was here, now they're an utter embarrassment on the end of the floor every single night. It's not a fun team to watch right now. And here is the head coach, Steve Nash.
All right, we'll start off with Michael Green for Jeff Taylor.
Coach, first, your message to the team after the game and your assessment of what you saw out there.
The message was connectivity and coming together. Just resistant. We can't start the game down 10, be down 20 in the second half, expecting it to come easy. This is professional sports. The other team is talented and capable, and we're short-handed, we're small. We got to come out extremely sharp, extremely competitive, and we're the real fire. It takes us to down 20 and find that fire.
Is it any more disappointing and troubling when you had a rare couple of days off, and to be locked in for this front end of a back-to-back and have this type of performance?
No matter what it's like, no matter, if it's a back-to-back, if it's a week off, you come to the gym, you gotta want to fight with your teammates and make it extremely hard on the other team. Make them miserable. And, we didn't do that. We did it in stretches. We proved that he can do it. But we all have to clean up. And the number one thing is just, that attitude and that competition level and that connectivity. Don't be bad, or was it just making sure he was clear on what he should be doing and what he was for? Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily taking on it. We find ourselves in the hole, and then we get a little emotional, and it happens. But I don't think we get there if we come out with the correct intensity to start the game.
Molly Andrews with ESPN. We've heard you've given that message to the group a couple of times now. It's the same issues that kind of continue to rear their ugly head. Is now the time? Is it a matter of listening? Is it a matter of letting your message sink in? Is it a matter of you just need more time? Is this the time that's going to work, or what needs to happen now? Because effort and intensity, you've preached that before.
Yeah, it's up to the team to decide what type of team they want to be, what they want to get out of this experience. I'm sure every team is going through this to some extent with the heavy schedule, missing bodies, all sorts of stuff thrown at us. So I don't think that we're in isolation here. I think there's a lot of teams that struggle with this from different nights. But I think our team needs to challenge themselves and figure out who they want to be and what they want to represent together. So, it's having played the game, a certain amount of that comes down to team building within that locker room and deciding, if they want to come together and be a force, or if that's not as important. And I think right now, they've been tested here, whether they want to become that team that, is tough and connected and competitive every single night. And that's got to come from within that room. And, we'll keep trying to get better and solve some of the issues. I think the number one issue on a night like tonight was just, the competitive spirit of the game is particularly.
Alex Sibber with The Athletic.
Jonathan multiple times in the second half.
get rid of their lead and get maybe one possession game, and then they go on another run, and all that work was undone. I guess what do you think caused you guys to prevent it from getting tied or making that extra step? Was it just the energy exerted to get their lead their way, to make that next step and get it tied or a small lead or something else?
Forward sharp enough. I mean, a part of that obviously you take a big enough hole, and it's just not easy to come all the way back. We're down 20 points to get it back to a 3-point game. The game ebbs and flows. You can't always get back over the hump, but I think you're consistently making errors is the reason we couldn't get over the hump.
Bruce Beck with NBC New York.
Steve, you've had a trade, you've had injuries, you've dealt with COVID protocols, a lot going on. So is that a reason that you can kind of blame for this losing streak, or does it all go back to who they want to be and what they want to represent?
I think both are a part of this streak. We beat the Clippers. We must have won 8 out of 11 or 9 out of 12. 2 games to prepare for the Raptors, and obviously the Kevin situation where he got yanked right before tip and allowed to go in cold and yanked when we get back in the game, and then this is a week. That didn't help. And there's any favors with back-to-back Raptors still lead, and obviously now a back-to-back Detroit. So that's tough. Like, those faces, that is hard. And kind of derailed our momentum there. Having said that, that's the way this year is going to be. We said that from the start. You can't make excuses. We got to find a way to fight through. And, like I said to the guys, win, lose, or draw, I just want to feel them coming together and the other teams in the field. Don't want to sense resistance. At the heart of everything, this year. So that is a big component of it, but the scenario is not necessarily favorable.
Last question, Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Coach, I think you called Kyrie's finger injury manageable. What did you think about the way he played out there today? Do you think his finger is this going to be something he's going to have to kind of work through, or do you think he might have to take some time to figure that out? Like, he was kind of struggling with it.
I think he's okay to continue to do that. I thought he played pretty well tonight. It's maybe wasn't a classic by him, but obviously he had some incredible plays and produced. So I think there's a better reason to believe he can play through it, and at the same time gain comfort with where it's at. Maybe it'll settle a little bit as well. So whatever the finger percent's the finger 1%. If he's able to play, he's a tough cookie and will play. And if he's not, he needs rest. So we'll see how it goes, but I think he'll be able to play.
That is Nets head coach Steve Nash. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back with more right after this as the Nets lose to the Pistons on the Fan. Sports Radio 101.9 FM, Sports Radio 66, and streaming on WFAN.com. The Honda HR-V, CR-V, Pilot, Passport, and Ridgeline. They all have one thing in common. They never back off from a challenge. Available with all-wheel drive, the Honda SUV lineup has the performance you can count on. The capabilities from Maze. Ask Kelly Blue Book. They named Honda their 2020 Best Value brand. So contact your Honda dealer or shop online today.
Based on 2020 brand image awards from Kelly Blue Book, visit KBB.com for more information.
Proud sponsor of the Nets. Double Moving here. We're the largest moving company in New York. We have storage facilities all over New York and New Jersey. Double Moving makes moving easy. Just make a video of everything you want to move with your phone, send it to us, and we'll tell you how much it costs. Mention this ad, and Double Moving will give you 4 free wardrobe boxes towards your move. Till then, see you at the game.
In today's world, it is more important than ever to surround yourself with people and companies you can trust who will help you through some of the toughest decisions you've ever had to make. Whether you're looking to reopen your business or buy or rent a new home, Hub International is by your side. Visit Hub's Coronavirus Resource Center at hubinternational.com. Whether you're looking for help on business insurance, employee benefits, retirement planning, or even how to file for unemployment benefits, you'll get the information you need, because at Hub International, our mission is to help you protect what matters most.
Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn is the #1 rated cardiac care program in New York. With the most advanced technology, top-rated heart specialists, there's no better place in New York to take care of your heart than Maimonides.
32 points. Grant was finished with 32. 11 of 19 shooting. 4 of 8 from behind the arc. He had 5 rebounds, 4 assists. 22 for DeLon Wright. The Pistons shot a scorching 56%. We're 44.8% from behind the arc. They got 25 points off 15 net turnovers. And they go on to win it 122-111. Snapped a 4-game losing streak. They improved to 6-18 on the year, while the Nets lose a season-high 3rd consecutive game. They dropped to 14-12. And you heard from Steve Nash. We hope to hear from the Nets bring another player up. We may get a piece of that at BK Nets Radio, the way to reach us on Twitter. And you just get a sense of frustration from our fans checking in, because it's kind of the same old story we've been telling right now.
No, it's hard to disagree with any of it. It's frustrating for fans to watch a team not come together on the defensive side of the floor. It's something they can relate to. They feel like it's, I'm sure it's some technique, it's some schematic stuff, but there's an intensity level that has to be brought out on every single possession. Some of the guys are not great defenders, but they certainly think that they can play at a higher level than they're playing right now. And 26 games in, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't
You are kind of what you are after
26.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's a good sample size.
It's a decent sample size. Now, has it been strange?
Yeah, you haven't had the whole group together.
Yeah, exactly. But there are too many signs right there that say that this team's defensive, whatever, ability, acumen, whatever, it's just not where it needs to be, and in a lot of different areas. And
it's interesting, Dr. Schwartz on Twitter, always a game or two every season like this, uninspiring, apathetic, outworked, outplayed. We can say a lot about their deficiencies on the defensive end, but this is the first time where I described it in the middle of the game as the Nets are lifeless tonight. That's the first time I think I've said that all season. I mean, there have been times when defensively they don't look like they're digging in, but there was still a little life and they would just try to outpunch you. Tonight you just felt like they didn't have the energy to even try to outpunch you tonight.
No. There were periods of time when Bruce Brown gave him a bit of a jolt.
There was that one stretch during the 3rd quarter. He was great. But other than that, they got within 2. He helped them get the game to within 2.
This is a bottom 5 defensive team based on the rankings, with a chance to come out against a weak offensive team.
Yeah.
And
this is a get-right game.
This is a get-right game that went totally wrong. I mean, it was not. It's concerning. It's very concerning. Again, because you're thinking of the big picture with this group and saying, well, where can they be? And the frustrating thing is they're still unselfish on offense. They've got wonderful talent. Yes, Durant's going to make a difference on defense, but there were times when they weren't good when he was out there playing defense either.
Yeah.
So there's work to be done, and the understanding of the importance. I understand you can't practice, you can't do. Well, maybe you can. Maybe you got to. Maybe there's got to be 2-3 hours of defense. You know what I mean? Like, it's not all like, okay, no. That's kind of how I feel. It's like you give them enough, you give them that, and then you're like, this is what we're going to do. If I'm going to put people out there that want to compete, we've got to get better at this. Yeah, you might lose a couple of games after because you practice them hard, but you might win it and start winning and playing it the way you need to do it.
Well, it has to be something, because Groundhog Day was like a week ago, but it's starting to seem a lot like the Groundhog Day, because we're seeing the deficiency on the defensive end, and then you see Steve Nash after the game have to try and explain it, and he keeps kind of giving you that same explanation, but nothing is really changing.
But then you get to these games where you're like the Clipper game, where you say, they're unbelievable. This team is loaded. They're great. They're so much fun. They play so hard. They're capable of doing it. They just play down to their competition. I know you're supposed to have an even keel and be smooth and be controlled with NBA players and let it go. Sometimes you just have to get after it.
Yeah, and you know, we've got a lot of newcomers on Twitter tonight. I mean, and
fired up.
yeah, I mean, John Massey, we thank you for checking in with us. I mean, he's enough of this defense. You know, they need to get Jordan more in the game, give it up size. He works extra hard. Danny checking in about the competitive spirit he feels left with Kenny Atkinson. I know you have that. It's good to be kind of even keeled. It was good to not get too high, but you know, it gets low. I see in games.
Yeah.
Steve Nash has a very calm demeanor. He has an incredible IQ of the game, and he's a tremendous person. But sometimes, you know, when you become a coach, I think that's the thing, and you know this, Tim, because you were a coach for a long time. You're not going to be everybody's friend when you're a coach.
No.
You know, and you can't. You've gotta be the bad guy. I mean, it's like being a parent sometimes. You've got to come down on your kids. And you know, when you're a coach in the NBA, I mean, these are your kids, and yeah, you want them to be pros, and you want to be able to ride out stretches of games when they're not playing. There's got to be a jolt, in my opinion, in this group to get them going defensively. Because I do not think it's a selfish thing. It doesn't get the offense. I'm really impressed with the way Harden wants to get it going. Kyrie picked his spots. They enjoy making passes to the open man. That is not going to be a problem. But this idea of I'm not buying right now after 26 games, the defense will just come together. You have to make it come together. Yeah, and not that they have to be a top 5 defense, but what we're seeing now is just not going to, as you said, achieve the goals.
They're not going to. You're kidding yourself. Yeah, I mean, you'll
win some games, and you'll be above 500, and you'll finish the top half of the East, but you're not going to win championships.
I don't think so. I think the habits hurt you over the long haul, and it becomes, it's tough. I mean, but I do also believe that this team has the right mentality, this unselfishness, and I think they would want to dig in. They have the goals of wanting to be a championship caliber team, and I think that they can be pushed. I think they can be coached. I think they can be made to play at a much higher level than they're playing right now. And you can add in a clean zone defense, just to play it straight up. But to get them out of the rhythm. We're going to this now, too. You know, because staying with just the man is not helping your team's mentality right now. I think you have to fit. You know, every fastball pitcher still got to have a changeup, and they just need a changeup right now to go along with what they're trying to build with their fastball.
122 to 111. The Pistons beat the Nets in Detroit. Nets will be back in action tomorrow night here in Brooklyn when they take on the Indiana Pacers. Garrison Bird not in the lineup yet. He had that mask removed, so they won't have to face him, but it's still a Pacer team that'll be tough. And again, they come out here against a good team in Brooklyn tomorrow night, get a win. I still don't think it means everything's good. You know know what I mean? I think there's just way too many of the nights we've seen. Even though tonight I thought was a low, I thought tonight was the worst effort we've seen from the Nets this season.
Yeah, no, well, certainly the way the game started was just really bad. You get a 13-0 run after you make a three. Come on, the unit's not ready. And the way that the baskets are, there were plays where guys quit on the play. Guys went right by him. Like, you've got to have that heart and soul and compete level, and then you can build from there. But this team needs a jolt right now.
Before we run, we do have Kyrie Irving coming to the podium right now, so let's hear a bit of Kyrie Irving's press conference. Kyrie had 27 in the loss for the Nets tonight.
All right, ready?
We'll start off with Michael Grady first.
Yeah, what was most glaring about, starting this game that contributed to a 20-point hole?
Coming out aggressive and making us feel us. A lot of teams come out very comfortable against us, and that's kind of the feel of the rest of the game is that we're playing catch up. And this is not a way to play as a competitor. Just always down, and though we have the talent to come back, and it's just not a way to play. We want to dominate on both ends of the floor, especially on defensive end, and make them uncomfortable that way. We put ourselves in a better position. So just starting off the game better.
I don't think we've talked to you this day, the finger injury. What is it like managing out there? How much, pain and discomfort are you having to push through?
Oh man, it sucks, man. It's just, shooting very well in the season, you want to continue so, and, you just have different hiccups that happen, so especially on my shooting hand. It's uncomfortable, but at the same time, I don't want to make any excuses. I'm out there, put myself up there, do a lot of treatment on it, and, we're down a few players, obviously, as well, so you just want to go out there and compete, and worry about the pain later, but, do the best I can.
Ryan Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, Kyrie, are you noting, a common thread? I mean, a lot of the games that you guys kind of come out and spot a big lead or maybe don't have quite a defensive intensity that you're looking for, a lot of them are against a close ledger. Teams that have a great record. Are you noting that commonality, and how concerning is that mindset-wise?
Well, I think you guys noted enough for all of us, so I don't think I need to know anything. It is pretty glaring when, game to game, and especially when the records are, being used as kind of a reason on why we're not going out there and playing hard. I don't accept that, and I don't think our team accepts it as a whole. Obviously we don't want that to be on, kind of what teams think about us, and we're seeing it day in and day out where guys, teams are coming in and punching us in the mouth early, and we're playing catch up, and it happens to be against the guys in the league. That record, man, you gotta call it for what it is, so we gotta fix that. And that takes maturity, that takes accountability, and that takes, realization of what we need to do moving forward. Every day, guys.
Going to Andrews with ESPN. So Kyrie, you said that his message was that this comes down to pride and who you guys want to be as a team. So I guess, is this who you want to be as a team, and if not, then what is it that you're working towards?
Well, I think you can answer the first question yourself. I don't think that we go out every single day of our lives and sacrifice the time in order to be average at anything. I know you don't wake up, but I don't know when here on this call wakes up to be average at anything that they do. And we look like average, and we have the talent that the eye test presents that we should be dominating. We have the experience in terms of some of our guys that have been through certain things, circumstances to be able to battle through. And we're dealing with a lot of the reality that we're putting this together on the fly. Like, we are the team that the NBA put the most games on. We're the team that gets someone taken out during COVID, during the games. We're the team that has to deal with the refs. We're the team that is literally battling against so many odds that at this point, point is not even a reason to continue to comment on. They are what they are. And as a warrior that I am and the energy that I have alongside my teammates, we just have to turn that corner. And we haven't done it yet, but we will. And I'm telling you, the league's going to be on notice from that. So just got to take it day by day.
All right, we might as well end right there from Kyrie Irving, who vows for it to get better.
I like it. At least he's upset and he's trying, a little fired up.
Yeah, we'll take time out and we will put a wrap on things after the Pistons beat the Nets 122 to 111. We want to thank everybody for checking in with us on Twitter. Take a time out. We'll come back right after this on the Fan. Sports Radio 101.9 FM, Sports Radio 66, and streaming on WFAN.com.
Okay, we've got Rick here, a veteran in the league who's gone 0-2 the past Valentine's Day. Do you think he can pull off a win this year? I always like an underdog, Bob, but I'm not sure about this guy. He's passing aisle 3. He picks up a bag of wings. He dodges the produce section. Will he pick up the marching box? Heading for the candy aisle. He's picking up Don't be a rig. Make happy this Valentine's Day with a heart-shaped box of Brussels Dover chocolate. Ambulance is the official emergency medical services provider for the Brooklyn Nets and the Barclays Center. Ambulance is the leading medical provider in the sports and entertainment field and in the healthcare industry. Their dedicated staff of physicians, nurses, paramedics, and EMTs are specially trained and experienced to provide you with the highest level of care. To contact Ambulance, call 718-863-8800. That's 718-863-8800. Or visit their website spelled ambulnz.com. Geico knows there are many reasons why you ride. From the exciting adventure of the daily commute to the peace of mind that Geico always has your back with 24/7. Martin has one reason in particular.
My skin is
Sports Radio 101.9 FM, Sports Radio 66, and streaming on WFAN.com.
With your next job, I'm Stephen Weber, WCBS News Radio 880.
just for the attorneys out there. So you passed the bar, joined a firm, or even built your own. Now are you finding out that you're doing more administration than actual law practice? Lexicon can help. Lexicon is a legal services and technology provider with over a decade of experience streamlining administrative tasks like timekeeping, HR, billing, client intake, and more. So you can focus on maximizing billable hours and increasing client satisfaction. Call 855-4-LEXICON or visit lexiconservices.com/go to learn more.
So much is happening, but who can you trust? You need to check out Newsmax TV, the fastest growing news channel in America. Watch it on all major cable systems and see shows with Sean Spicer, Greg Kelly, Lindsay Keith, Stinchfield, and Rob Schmidt. They're giving you the real story on Biden and
This program was written and produced by Carl Scott and myself, with production assistance from Adnan Friedman. Our engineer was Bill O'Neill, and the executive producer was Leroy Homer. Special thanks to Karen Chilton. Her book, Hazel Scott, The Pioneering Journey of a Jazz Pianist from Cafe Society to Hollywood to HUAC, was the inspiration for this show. We'd also like to thank John Houston, WPIX, Jerry Hutchinson, and South Carolina Educational Television. Additional thanks to Diana LeChatinier at the Schomburgs. WQXR New York. I'm Terrence McKnight.
Classical New York, 105.9 FM and HD, WQXR Newark, and 90.3 FM, WQXW Ossining.
You hear a lot of talk about Chopin being the lyricist of the keyboard, how much he loves singers. Right at the introduction of this impromptu, you get that sense that you can hear a baritone or a tenor singing this line. This is Shai Wasner at the piano playing Chopin's impromptu number 3. Take a listen. Shai Wozner playing the impromptu number 3 by Chopin. Here on WQXR. Here's some music by Joseph Haydn. It's Sinfonia Concertante. Heidelberg Symphony Orchestra on WQXR.
And supporters against democracy is one that we've seen in multiple countries. I lived part of the time in Poland, and the ruling party there has sought to undermine the independence of the court system, has attacked press freedom, and has used many of the same kinds of rhetorical and online disinformation tactics that have been used by the Trump campaign. You know, we all have in our heads this idea that democracy ends with a coup d'etat, and there's tanks on the street, and the president is under arrest. Actually, democracy much more often ends with democratic leaders turning against their own institutions and creating a loss of faith in them as a way of staying in power.
So when you think about how Poland began to use authoritarian tactics, what were the moments that might be relevant for the U.S. today? Any tempos that you can think of?
The really big and important moment is one that may sound at first strange to American listeners, but this was the moment when a plane crash 10 years ago killed the then president of the country. And this plane crash, which was an accident, it was caused by pilot's error, was turned into a conspiratorial narrative by the party that is now the ruling party, that there was an attempt to kill the president, that it was somehow involved the Russians, that it somehow involved the then Polish government. But think about what that means. You know, if the center-right government has been involved in killing the president, that means that everyone's involved. The police, the courts, you know, everyone's covering something up. This is actually very, very similar to the way that birtherism was used by Donald Trump in the United States. And this was also a conspiracy theory. It said that the president of the United States was illegitimate, Barack Obama, because he'd been born in a different country. And a very large number of Americans believe this.
So what does the parallel of that conspiracy moment tell you about where the U.S. is at? I mean, there are still many people who believe that Donald Trump won the election, that it was stolen.
So we should take this problem very seriously. It wasn't just the few thousand people who attacked the Capitol, it's the number of people in the country, between 10 and 20%, who supported them. You know, remember, the attack on the Capitol was not Republicans attacking Democrats. It wasn't an illustration of polarization. It was a group of people attacking the system itself. They were trying to prevent Congress from functioning. And the fact that there is this large support for them in the country means that we now have a percentage of Americans who do not accept the rules of democracy.
I'm speaking with writer and analyst Ann Applebaum, and you've written extensively about some of your own friends and acquaintances in Eastern Europe, and they made a sort of transformation and ultimately embraced authoritarianism. You've written they were not poor and rural, they are not in any sense victims of the political transition, and they are not an impoverished underclass. On the contrary, they are educated, they speak foreign languages. So knowing that there are these Eastern Europeans who pivoted to something dark, how does that help you understand those who planned or participated in the siege on the Capitol on January 6th?
So what we know about those who participated in the Capitol siege, as well as their supporters in the right-wing media, most of them were not very poor. Of those who've been arrested and who we have some statistics on, the majority are middle class. Some of them were quite wealthy. I mean, famously, there's a woman who flew to Washington in her private plane. Many of them are middle-aged as well. This is a part of American society that feels disenfranchised or angry or excluded for cultural reasons.
So do you see a parallel to your friends in Eastern Europe?
The kinds of elites who are attracted to authoritarianism in Poland have a parallel in Britain, they have a parallel in the United States, they have a parallel in Spain, of course they have a parallel in Germany and France. There is a part of all of these new authoritarian populist movements that has strong intellectual support. There are people who are writing speeches and designing these disinformation campaigns and thinking about the slogans, and those are all people who are get rid of the stereotype in your head that this is something to do with lack of education, because it isn't necessarily.
Meantime, Trumpism as a concept still has a lot of support and people with guns. Where do you look to in the historical record for roadmaps for going forward? Have a societal reckoning with what we've been through and to think about reconciliation? Like, do Do you turn to Colombia and look at how they tried to reintegrate insurgents, or how Northern Ireland has tried to move forward? Are we at that point?
I actually wrote a few days ago in The Atlantic an article arguing that the best precedents that we can look to are countries that have dealt in the past with violent insurgencies. Not that we are Colombia or we are Northern Ireland, we're very different in too many ways to list, but the way of thinking that peacemakers in those kinds of places have used is one that might be useful to us. We may find that there's a part of the American public that doesn't agree with another part of the public, and there isn't going to be a solution, just as there wasn't in Northern Ireland. There wasn't between people who thought Northern Ireland should be British and those who thought it should be Irish. There wasn't a halfway point. And so what did they do? They found other things to talk about. What can we do together? We can build a community center in our town. We can build roads. Eventually, once they worked on these kinds of peace-building projects for some years, they found ways to lower the tone of the conflict, to make the differences between whether you were Irish or British less significant. People could get passports from both countries. They took away the border that once went across Ireland. This doesn't offer us a blueprint, or even a roadmap, but it offers us a way of thinking about the problem. It may be that the culture war is unsolvable. We can't come to some, happy medium conclusion that reaches some kind of bipartisan plateau. It may be instead that we have to find other things that we can talk about and do together. And by the way, I have the instinctual sense that the Biden administration understands this at some level. This is one of the reasons why Biden himself is not talking about impeachment. He's trying to get people focused on the economy and on the vaccines and on the coronavirus. And I think that's the right tactic for the moment.
Author Anne Applebaum's latest book is Twilight of Democracy, The Seductive Allure of Authoritarianism. And thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you.
Within his first week in office, President Biden ordered the Justice Department to end its reliance on private prisons. But when it comes to private immigration detention centers, Biden hasn't touched that. As the world's Daisy Contreras reports, immigration advocates say that system also needs a hard look.
Immigration detention affects thousands. Just last year, 170,000 people cycled through it. It used to be that the U.S. government oversaw immigration detention. That's changed, especially since 9/11. Immigration detention expanded after that, and U.S. officials turned to private prison companies to run this work. The companies jumped right in.
And they started seeing the federal government as a place to have these more lucrative contracts.
That's Silky Shah with Detention Watch Network, a group advocating against immigration detention. They've tracked how the detention system became even more privatized during the Trump administration, with more multi-million-dollar contracts signed by the key companies in this business, CoreCivic Inc. and Geo Group. Today, 80% of immigrants in detention centers are in private detention. Just last month, President Joe Biden announced changes to private prison contracts to end what he calls racial disparities and pave the way for fair sentencing. He didn't touch detention, but many hope he will. For years, immigrants in detention and advocacy groups have documented a lack of oversight, physical and mental abuse at these facilities. Many immigration detention centers have also become COVID hotspots.
No hay doctores, no pocos servicios médicos. Yo fui contagiado del COVID-19 en esa instalación.
A man in a detention center in Arizona run by CoreCivic says there were no doctors around, hardly any medical services. He says he was infected by the virus there too. This recording is from the Florence Project, a nonprofit in Arizona that assists undocumented immigrants. It partnered with artists to take aerial images of private detention centers across the U.S., from California to Texas. In fact, Texas houses the most immigrants in the country. The nonprofit is also collecting stories from those inside. In their defense, these companies say that they take safety seriously, especially during the pandemic. Immigrants are given face masks and medical attention, they say. But addressing abuse and neglect is only the beginning of a much larger detention problem, says Shaw. It's also about racial justice.
And what we know about these systems is it disproportionately target people of color and Black people. And we're seeing that even now in the context of who is currently in detention and who is being deported.
Biden says he wants to address racial inequity inside detention centers too. But unwinding might be more of a battle.
Any steps Biden takes now need clear deadlines to phase out the contracts, says Jesse Franzblau. He's an analyst with the National Immigration Justice Center. Franzblau says giving companies a 2-year deadline makes sense.
Which the federal government has the authority to do. They can always end a contract with a private entity. They have the authority to do so, but they need direction from above to start carrying that out.
Advocates also stress the fact that nearly 1/3 of immigrants held in detention centers don't have a criminal record, and many others have minor nonviolent offenses. Advocates like Shaw point to other options.
So there are models that include GPS monitoring that are just alternative forms of detention. I think the alternatives that do work are, one, like people should just be with their families.
GPS monitoring involves ankle bracelets, tracking people while their immigration case goes through the courts. States like California and Florida do this more. Shaw says that detention could also be a bartering tool for Biden's other immigration goals.
And I think there's, this question for this administration, given the concern about people arriving at the border, whether they are going to use detention as a deterrent strategy. That's what the Obama administration did when they brought back family detention in 2014 in full force.
Immigration detention also goes beyond private companies. County jails also sign contracts with the federal government to detain immigrants. People like Johannes Fabi, who's from Benin.
It's just horrible to live in detention, You just want to give up on everything.
Fabi was detained in a county jail south of Chicago for 10 months. Before immigration officials picked him up in 2019, he was in the process of applying for a green card, which his U.S. citizen wife sponsored.
So I really wish the Biden administration can break the whole system down. Detention for profit, private detention, county jail.
For now, immigrants like Fabi and those working to dismantle the detention system altogether will wait to see how and when Biden might change it. For the World, I'm Daisy Contreras.
Something you do want to hear. You are intelligent. You make all the right decisions. You were smart before smart was cool, and you made it cool again. You have a wealth of knowledge, and you are so very clever. I bet you already knew I was going to say that, you genius. There, don't you feel better? You'll also feel better when you hear you could save big when you switch to Progressive. But I'm pretty sure you already knew that, too. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
If you love us on the radio, like us on Facebook.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good evening, 29 degrees at 10:20. I'm Paul James. Here's what's happening. More problems when it comes to vaccination appointments. This time it was a computer problem at Walgreens. But first, the impeachment trial got underway today. Donald Trump's second impeachment trial.
It was clear from the start. The star of this trial will be video, not witnesses.
To the Capitol.
The video of President Trump addressing a January 6th rally, urging them to walk to the Capitol. The video then jumping to the mob assault on the building. Trump attorney Bruce Castor says not only is this impeachment unconstitutional, he calls it an attack on free speech and liberty.
Honestly, no. It can't be. We can't be thinking about that. We can't possibly be suggesting that we punish people for political speech in this country.
But lead House Manager Jamie Raskin says
The vast majority of constitutional scholars, and weighed in on the proposition being advanced by the president, this January exception, heretofore unknown, agree with us. And that includes the nation's most prominent conservative legal scholars.
Al Jones, 1010 Wins News.
A Long Island man has been arrested by the FBI. He posted video of himself on social media smoking marijuana inside the U.S. Capitol during the riot. It's coming up on 1010 Wins. Wins News Time 1021. Traffic and Transit, here's Kelly Dillon. Hello, Kelly. Apparently we don't have Kelly Dillon, so we will move on. Donald Trump's second impeachment trial.
It was clear from the start. The star of this trial will be video, not witnesses.
To the Capitol.
The video of President Trump addressing a January 6th rally, urging them to walk to the Capitol. The video then jumping to the mob assault on the building. Trump attorney Bruce Castor says not only is this impeachment unconstitutional, he calls it an attack on free speech and liberty.
Honestly, no. It can't be. We can't be thinking about that. We can't possibly be suggesting that we punish people for political speech in this country.
But lead House Manager Jamie Raskin says
The vast majority of constitutional scholars, in weighting on the Constitution being advanced by the President, this January exception, heretofore unknown, agree with us. And that includes the nation's most prominent conservative legal scholars.
Al Jones, 1010 Wins News.
All right, let's go to traffic now and Kelly Dillon.
And we'll start with a crash in New Jersey, southbound Route 21, right past Route 3 in Clifton. This one getting cleared away, so we are a bit slow here. Not looking too bad on the West Side Highway or the FDR Drive. In Queens, I am just getting word of an accident on the eastbound side of the Grand Central Parkway. This one is right as you approach 164th Street, right past Parsons Boulevard. So we are getting a bit busy as you make your way through this area. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels of the Verrazano heading into Brooklyn. On the lower deck, one lane out for construction into Staten Island. Now the lower level is completely shut down because of construction, so a bit busy on the upper level. And here's what we see on Long Island State 3. So far, so good through Nassau on the LIE, the Northern and Southern State Parkways. I'm Kelly Dillon. Our next report at 10:31 on 1010 Wins.
Need to talk about COVID? Anonymously, confidentially, and free? COVID has affected our lives. New York Project Hope crisis counselors are available to talk every day. Find out more at nyprojecthope.org.
News on 1024. Apparently some people forget that when you post something on social media, law enforcement may see it. The FBI today arrested a Long Island man, Greg Rubenbacher of Farmingdale, apparently posted video of himself smoking weed inside the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th riot. According to the Daily News, one of his Snapchat followers forwarded the images to the feds. He is now facing federal charges in connection with the storming of the Capitol. Walgreens says it is having technical issues making it impossible for some to make an appointment to get vaccinated.
Drugstore chain says it's restored its scheduling website after a temporary outage that was sending users to a page that said updates in progress. It's not clear what caused the error. The outage comes just days before pharmacies like Walgreens, CVS, and others are set to begin receiving shipments of COVID vaccines directly from the U.S. government.
Correspondent Mark Remlog. The Lower East Side. A judge has tossed out an effort by residents and businesses on the Lower East Side to stop the city from placing homeless people at the Blue Moon Hotel on Orchard Street. The city says it's making the move to ease overcrowding in wake of the pandemic. Wins News Time 1025.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I get those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was going to drink, but it's real. And I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-741-3889. 800-741-3889. 800-741-3889.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Wins News Time 1026. Now Bloomberg Money Watch on 1010 Wins.
Silicon Valley startup is partnering with Toyota to bring self-driving cars to the masses. Aurora Innovation will supply self-driving technology for Toyota vehicles, starting with the Sienna minivan. It hopes to begin testing this year. The stock market's February rally finally ran out of gas. Fears of rising inflation as the economy emerges from its pandemic slump stalled the advance after 6 consecutive daily gains. The Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped 10. The S&P 500 fell 4. The Nasdaq Composite added 20. Cannabis producer Canopy Growth expects to gain broad access to the U.S. market this year with the help from its partner Constellation Brands. The Canadian company says it can do so even without straight-up federal legalization of marijuana. Charles Schwab has laid off about 200 workers as it continues to absorb last year's acquisition of TD Ameritrade. Bloomberg Money Watch at 26 and 56 past every hour. I'm Larry Kofsky for 1010 Wins.
What's news time 1028? Rock her world this Valentine's Day. Any guy, any age. I'm talking to you. A local medical clinic, Boston Medical Group, is offering a free dose of a revolutionary ED treatment with a paid consultation. You'll receive a personalized, custom blend of the latest FDA-approved medications, formulated to treat sexual performance issues caused by diabetes, cardiovascular problems, low testosterone, or depression. 98% of men experience effective results the first time they use it, regardless of age or medical condition. If you have ED and nothing has worked, this is your match made in heaven. Act now on this limited time offer. Claim your free dose of this highly effective rapid-acting treatment. Your better half will thank you. Call 800-918-3700. That's 800-918-3700. 800-918-3700. Happy Valentine's Day from BostonMedicalGroup.com. Your free dose is offered during your private and confidential office visit. Here's a message just for the attorneys out there. So you passed the bar, joined a firm, or even built your own. Now are you finding out that you're doing more administration than actual law practice? Lexicon can help. Lexicon is a legal services and technology provider with over a decade of experience streamlining administrative tasks like timekeeping, HR, billing, client intake, and more, so you can focus on maximizing billable hours and increasing client satisfaction. Call 855-4-LEXICON or visit lexiconservices.com/go to learn more.
So much is happening, but who can you trust? You need to check out Newsmax TV, the fastest growing news channel in America. Watch it on all major cable systems and see shows with Sean Spicer, Craig Kelly, Lindsay Keith, Stinchfield, and Rob Schmidt. They're giving you the real story on Biden and Pelosi. So download the free Newsmax app on your smartphone now, or watch Newsmax on Roku, YouTube, Pluto, Zumo, and more. 30 million Americans watch Newsmax TV. So should you.
Now this message: if you've been injured in any type of accident, call 1-800-LAWYERS. That's 1-800-LAWYERS. I'm Paul James. Wins News Time, 10:30. More vaccine is on the way, but both the mayor and the governor say that while the supply situation is getting better, it's not good enough yet.
The positivity rate in the state continues to drop, currently at 4.3%, and the vaccine supply is increasing by 5%. Governor Cuomo welcomes that, but says production needs to ramp up.
Johnson & Johnson would be a major and significant increase in production.
Distribution is the concern for Mayor de Blasio.
New Yorkers are smart. New Yorkers can count. We're being starved of supply. We could be doing 3 times as many vaccinations per week right now.
The mayor wants a 24/7 continuous operation when he can get that level of supply. Juliette Papa, 1010 Wins News.
Wins News Time, 10:31. Time for traffic and transit. Here's Kelly Dillon.
I will start with a new accident in Queens on the eastbound Grand Central Parkway into Parsons Boulevard. Right past there, you're going to see at least a lane blocked off and bumper-to-bumper delays. Now, construction work. Let's talk about the bridges and tunnels. Construction work getting set up now at the George Washington Bridge. Heading into the city on the upper deck, you're going to see the right lane closed with construction work. So we are getting a bit slow inbound right now, and heading across the Lincoln and Holland tunnels, not too bad in either direction. At the Verrazano Bridge, heading into Brooklyn, you're going to see a lane down on that lower deck with construction. And in Staten Island, all lanes are closed on the lower level. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big 3. The LIEs in northern and southern states flying through Nassau. Construction on westbound Sunrise Highway between exits 39 and 38. That knocks out the right and center lanes, so it is a bit busy. Traffic and transit every 10 minutes on the one. Wherever they happen. I'm Kelly Dillon on 1010 Wins.
Wins News Time, 10:32. Now the 1010 Wins
4-day forecasters Brian Thompson.
Well, there still can be a few icy spots around through the overnight hours as we drop to a low of 23. The sky will turn out partly cloudy, and we will start the day on Wednesday with some sunshine, but there will be more clouds by the afternoon, a high of 34. Mostly cloudy Wednesday night. There will be some snow late, especially off to the south and west of the city, a low down to 25. Some snow into Thursday morning. That can accumulate a coating to an inch in and around the city. Otherwise, mostly cloudy in the afternoon on Thursday with a high of 32. Very cold on Friday. Clouds and breaks of sun. There could be a few flurries around. High Friday 27. Times of clouds and sun on Saturday with a high of 28. Some snow is possible heading into Sunday. I'm active weather meteorologist Brian Thompson on New York's weather station 1010 Bad.
29 degrees, clear skies in New York, humidity 75%, winds northwest at 8, gusting to 17. 26 degrees in Bay Ridge, 29 in West Hempstead, it's 23 in Greenberg. Winds news time 10:33.
This is an urgent message. Credit card debt and facing financial hardship caused by the ongoing pandemic. You may qualify for the Debt Reset program that can reduce your debt to a fraction and lower your monthly payments while you become debt-free faster than you ever thought possible. If you owe $10,000 in credit card, medical bills, consolidation loans, or collection accounts, get on the road to recovery now by calling National Debt Relief to see if you qualify and for savings at 800-815-2133. National Debt Relief is ranked #1 for debt resolution with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. If you're facing financial hardship, you can get the debt relief you need now. There are no upfront costs or out-of-pocket expenses. Call now to see if you qualify for substantial savings. Call 800-815-2133. 800-815-2133. 800-815-2133.
Wednesday news time 10:34. An intense manhole explosion and fire in Astoria. It happened in the vicinity of 31st Street and Broadway. It was so intense that a lot of people heard loud booms, and it actually rattled nearby buildings and homes. The fire department evacuated nearby buildings over concerns about carbon monoxide levels. Carlos Villamarin was at his gym. He was told to leave. He told CBS 2 his car was damaged. The bumper's torn off. The hood is open. He's happy that, nobody else got hurt. Thank God. Sometimes snow and salt gets underground and comes in contact with electrical systems, which can cause sparks or fires. A gunman opened fire today at a Minnesota health clinic. Correspondent Mark Remillard.
Authorities say they've arrested 67-year-old Gregory Paul Ulrich of Buffalo, Minnesota, northwest of Minneapolis, after he allegedly opened fire at a clinic, wounding 5 people. Wright County Sheriff Sean Derringer.
We have had several calls for service regarding Mr. Ulrich dating back to 2003, both the Buffalo Police Department and the Wright County Sheriff's Office, so he's no stranger to law enforcement.
Authorities say right now they believe he acted alone and there is no evidence of a connection to domestic terror groups.
Word tonight that one of the 5 wounded has died. Well, this is different. Cops say a man stole 10 pints of ice cream from a CVS store on Lexington Avenue in East Harlem. Police chased 30-year-old Anthony Pastore, and he climbed a fence. What he didn't know when he climbed the fence was what was on the other side. There was a big drop to an alley way below. Police rescued him, then arrested him. The ice cream did not melt in weather like this. A big piece of Alex Trebek's wardrobe is being donated to charity. That's a suggestion of the late Jeopardy host's son, Matthew. 14 suits, 58 dress shirts, and dozens of neckties have been sent to the Doe Fund, which supports Americans who have struggled with addiction, homelessness, and incarceration. The organization says the clothing will be distributed to the men in their Ready, Willing, and Able re-entry program to be worn on job interviews. A member of the Supremes has died. It's coming up next on 1010 Wins News Time 10:37.
You decided to upgrade your outdoor deck. So you ordered the essentials: a power washer, a set of patio chairs, and a shiny new grill. And you use your Bank of America Cash Rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put towards your most essential deck addition: a bird feeder. Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding.